Welcome back to Best Kept Secrets. I am Dawn Leday, your host here from the Lifehouse Project with our founder and CEO, Samantha Foster. Welcome.
Thank you, Dawn, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
We are so excited to be here. I want to invite our audience. Today, we're going to talk about the Lifehouse Project and how it was born and what it's all about and your vision for it. But I want to invite our viewers. There's a lot of really important backstory that we have covered in a previous episode. So I want to invite people to check that out. You don't want to miss. This is really great context for our visit today. So we are starting at a point where you are now in Florida. You have claimed your own freedom and moved from the hub of where all of the terror and victimization and abuse happened in Oregon. So tell us what prompted this move.
Yeah, so, it was that realization that, the fact that I survived the kidnapping and the attempted murder on my life, it was that realization that if I truly wanted to change my life, my lifestyle, I needed to move away from where all of this abuse and travesty happened. And it wasn't the easiest move. I mean, let's be honest. When we're going through transitions in our life, we have to make really tough judgment calls. Even, we question ourselves, is this the right move or not? Um, However, I knew that if I was going to stay in Oregon or if I was going to stay in Washington where all this abuse happened, I'm just going to be trying um, to create a different person, if you will, and heal in the midst of the mud pit. So it was taking myself away from that area so that I have a chance to just breathe and be somewhere where I'm safe, which that was by myself because I didn't really know anybody that could help me on that level or create a safe space for me to heal and be safe. I knew that I needed to be alone at this point so I can discover who I truly was. And it was difficult because physically I left my children behind. My children were still in the midst of where all this abuse was happening to all of us. But I knew that if I didn't do something drastic to pull myself out of that lifestyle, I would never be able to go back and help my children. So this was just for me, this move. It was for my children too.
Yeah, because for basically 4 decades, you have endured trauma without you've planned escapes, you've tried to get away, but this is the first time where you've physically removed yourself from all of this.
That's correct. Yeah. And so, yeah, I was definitely embarking on a brand new journey that I had no idea what the outcome, and I didn't know what I was doing. It was just kind of instinctual that I knew that I needed to do this. Um, I didn't know how it was going to manifest out. I didn't have this, like, solid strategy, if you will. I just knew that I was going to take one step at a time, and the future was definitely unknown.
Yeah. So you end up from Oregon to Florida. It's pretty much the furthest you could get.
It's true.
And do you know anyone in Florida?
No, no. And that was the beauty of it. And so you can really I felt safe coming to Florida without knowing nobody at all. So you can really then tell just by that statement that if I felt for the first time in my life safe in a place that was completely foreign, I've never visited, I didn't know anybody, um, then rather staying in Oregon, you can really see then how bad it was for me in Oregon.
Mm,
Right? It was not a good life. There was no place of safety at all in Oregon.
yeah. And people weren't really safe.
No, no, not at all. You know, one of the things that so many victims and survivors need to know and understand that they didn't become a victim and a survivor on their own. Okay, the environment that they grew up in, the environment that they are in was conducive to them being that victim, right? That created that survivor mode, and being a survivor. So you need to really look at who you're hanging around, even if it's family. I understand that we have been so programmed that no matter what, stick with family, but that's not true. That's not true. When you're not safe and you're being victimized and abused, I don't care who that person is, you don't need to be around them. And I guess that's one of my messages, today that I guess I have for people. Do not be around somebody who victimizes and abuses you. So, so moving into Florida gave me, it was like a fresh air, if you will.
Mm,
I was able to breathe, Dawn, and relax. And nobody, there was nobody who had any expectations at all of me because they didn't know me. So I could be who I wanted to be. I didn't have to be what others wanted me to be so I could live in their story and they can continue to live that abusive story, right? That victim mode story, if you will. Now give me a chance to really rewrite my own story or write my story for the first time where I'm the main character, if you will. But I'm going to write it how I wanted to write my story. And guess what? Being a victim and being a survivor is not in the story.
mm.
That
Yeah.
was all back in Oregon. When I left survivor, I left victim, not in my story.
Wow. Tell us, where does that come from, this sort of strength? You have no example really of living or example or experience of living a life that isn't full of abuse in some form or another. How do you move into this life where you actually get to be in control and on your own?
Right. And amazing, right? I think that each individual has that strength and that power and that drive to do just what I did. I think that sometimes we get in our own way from taking that step forward and doing it because we overthink things. So, where did that come from? It came from this deep rooted anger and passion that came from the loss of my mother, that came from the loss of my children, that came from the court system victimizing a victim, and knowing and seeing that other women were going through this exact same thing. There was this anger, if you will, and it was a righteous anger. So it wasn't like I'm treating people angry and I'm going out being an angry person. I'm just not an angry person. But sometimes we need to be righteously angry so that we take that step in a new direction to not just heal ourselves, but set out for a new path and forge a brand new path for us. So I really think it was that deep-seated righteous anger that gave me the strength and the courage to do what I did.
Yeah. And so you've dropped this moniker of victim,
Mhm.
and now you've dropped even the moniker of survivor. So what are you now?
So you're right. And this is a good question. So as I was rebuilding up myself, I decided that, okay, so I'm going to be somebody who is empowered. I am a leader. If I
Mm,
can lead in my own life, then I can step up and be a leader for others, right? I know that, as I was reinventing myself, that love and compassion, to be really honest, leads everything that I do in my life. It is about love and compassion and understanding that love does not mean that you're a victim or that you're accepting abuse from anybody. You got to love yourself. So I'm going to set boundaries for me, and if I set those boundaries for myself, then other people will feel loved in the same way that I love myself, because those boundaries are going to keep them safe, and it's going to keep me safe, if that makes sense. So when we set boundaries for ourselves, it really is not just love for ourselves, but love for the other people. So I'm reinventing this person who's setting boundaries, who is empowered. And even though I may double guess myself at times, or like thinking, am I right? Am I wrong on this? But I still forward, it doesn't stop me from doing what I do every day, right? So I am just now building up this person who's living their life on their own terms, and doing the scary things, doing the stuff that I've never done before, and that's okay. And it doesn't look pretty all the time. I think people get something very idealistic in what it looks like, this transformation. Well, it looks pretty ugly because you're going to make mistakes. But then again, as you said, if you're really feeding yourself and you're loving yourself, then you're also forgiving yourself and moving forward through those mistakes. Like, okay, well, that didn't work out well, so let's try this way, right? But when you really let go of your ego and you let go of what it may look like, and what the results are going to be, is you would be amazed on who you end up turning out to be. I mean,
mm,
it's actually a lot of fun.
yeah. Do you think that that's a big part of it, letting go of ego?
Mhm. Yeah.
Mm,
It's our ego is what drives fear. Our ego is what drives the fight or flight or freeze. That's all very egotistical, right? So if we want to think about it, why do we want, why would somebody want to be the star of the show? It's all about them. Do I look good? And think about the stress that person is going through, to be that way. It's so egotistically driven that they're constantly in fear, and people
mm,
don't look at it. When people want to be the star of the show, or they want to be perceived as this or perceived as that, the root of it's fear of
mm,
rejection, fear of not being seen, fear of not being good enough, right? So when we let go of our ego, which is that fear driven need, the fight and flight or freeze mode, if you will, it's all fear driven. Well, then you're stepping forward into new territory, and you may not know the result, but you know what? It doesn't matter. You're living your life. Now you're having fun, because now you don't care what you may or may not look like. You're just moving forward now in a great direction, and now the sky's the limits for you. It's our
mm,
ego that sets the bar. If we have it, the bar might be pretty low for ourselves, but if we release the ego, sky's the limit.
mm.
So it really is, it's our ego that traps us.
Yeah. So now we're adding leader, we're adding an example. Would you say? I would say an example, be an
Mhm.
example.
Yeah.
Um, so you are recreating and almost really creating your life, because before it was sort of created for you. Now, for the first time, you're creating your life. You're in the driver's seat.
Mhm. Yeah.
When do you get this idea that not only should I take this decades of trauma and, have this chance to create this new life, this new identity, this real me, do you decide that Lifehouse Project is going to be a part of that?
Yeah, so this actually, the idea of helping other women and children in the same situation as me started during the court trials, the jury
Mm.
trials. Back in Oregon, when the district attorney asked me, or the prosecutor asked me, how did you do it? We need help. We need to know how you came back and you testified against your abuser and you told everything. And I didn't know at that time how I did it. I just know this is what was right. This is what I'm doing. And I was kind of in that numb type of stage at the same time. And I told her, I said, Sarah, I'm coming back when I find out. I'm going to come back and I'm going to help you. So that always lived within my heart. When I figure out how I did this and how I'm living a completely different life now. What was that snapping moment? What was it within me that took me from victim to survivor, now owning my own life? Um, I want to come back and help every other woman and child, or any victim, any survivor that has it. And that means going back into the legal system and helping them in the legal system. That means helping our prosecutors, right? Helping our domestic violence attorneys so that they can better communicate and work with survivors and victims. So that's kind of really what started it. And then, of course, my own children. I wanted to be able to come back and be able to help my children because they were all victims of child abuse and domestic violence.
Mm. What's
So
so
that's kind of what started that inception of me doing something.
Yeah. And what's so powerful about that question that the prosecutor posed to you? And even now, what I know that I want to know and the audience will want to know is what that answer is. But what makes it even more awe inspiring is that you had been wronged by the courts on many occasions. You were re victimized because you were a victim. So, how did you get that strength?
Yeah. I think, this is where this is so simple that it's going to probably make people cringe, but people overcomplicate things.
Mm.
And I'm hoping that nobody takes this incorrectly, but what it was, the big secret was letting go of the ego.
Mm.
So if you really think about that pivotal moment when I was discussing the kidnapping and when he was going into the kitchen to get a knife to stab me, and I thought about my children, and like, my children are safe right now. It's time for me to die. I have nothing left. I've lost everything, and I was ready to go. And in that moment, I did die. My ego was gone. There was nothing left. So if you can have that ego just stripped of you, now you have no fear. I wasn't scared to go testify against my abuser. Because I didn't care what was going to happen. I already lost everything.
Mm.
All right. So, and when I say fear is driven by ego, or ego is driven by fear, they're one and the same things. I'm telling you, it is the ego. And people are like, well, victims don't have egos. Yes, they do. They live in fear every single day. They are scared about what their abuser is going to think, what their abuser is going to do, what others are going to think, what others are going to say and do. They're very fear driven
Mm.
every day. So if you take that fear away from a victim, or that ego, where they don't care what anybody thinks, they don't care what their parents think, they don't care what their siblings think about it,
Yeah.
then they're gonna live life on their own terms. So that was the key. And when we're, and going into the Life House, this is, in the programs that we have, and I know we're going to be diving into that. The whole key to it from the very beginning of entering the playbook and escaping your abuser within that playbook and triage center, it's all about, are you ready to make that a commitment? Which
Mm,
means walking away from all of it, including all of your possessions and all of your assets, letting go of all the attachments, letting go of all the ego, knowing that your life is valuable, and just and walk away and stop caring about it so you can
mm.
start your new life. It's all done. And I haven't, this is the first time that I'm coming out with this, that I've told anybody this. It's all completely and utterly ego driven.
Wow.
Now that I don't care about what the judges say, I don't care about what the prosecutors say, I don't care about the court system, I don't care about what my siblings are saying or any of my family or any of those abusers. I don't care. And now look at where I'm at today,
Yeah.
because I stopped caring and I detached from all of it. Now we have the Lifehouse Project. The
Yeah.
world
Because
has the
without
Lifehouse
that,
Project.
you get to, do you say it's like with, when you don't care, you get to care almost more because
Mhm.
you're driven instead of by fear and by a concern for what others think. You're focused now on creating something that really matters.
Right, right. That has no ego in it,
Yeah.
right? And there is no fear in it, as being willing to knowing that when I'm coming out with some of this new information, or I'm going to be talking at events, I'm going to be talking on stages, and people are going to ridicule me. You don't think that people who are abusers, whether they know me or not, are not going to come after me?
Mm,
Slanderous things? Absolutely. I just don't care. I just don't care. If I die tomorrow, everything is okay. The
mm,
world still goes on. The Lifehouse Project still goes on. I'm not saying that my life is not valuable, but at the same time, life goes on without my life. So I'm not caring so much if I die tomorrow. What I care are my actions, and are my words spreading love and compassion? Are they making a difference in humanity and in society in a positive way? That's what I care about.
mm. So now you have this love and compassion, no ego driven desire to help others. And so tell us, when did we know now where the idea of Lifehouse Project came from? When was the next step into actually formulating the name and the actual idea?
It started January actually of 2000 and 2020. Yeah, right before the coronavirus hit.
Mm,
January 2020. And I was in conversation with some friends in Florida, and these friends were actually from Finland. They were the first board members, actually, of the Lifehouse Project. And we started talking about, and she was a medical doctor, and we started talking about helping women and children who are survivors of domestic violence, abuse, and human trafficking, and in a medical way, in a physical way, right?
mm,
Um, so, because as I said, she's a medical doctor over in Europe. So that was kind of the inception of the Lifehouse Project, and we just started every week getting together and talking about it, hammering it out, and boom, here comes the Lifehouse Project. And I was telling Millie, I said, Millie, but we need also mental health. And I started thinking everything that I needed that I didn't get, right? All
mm,
that support. I said, there are really no shelters. and I needed somewhere long term to stay, right? To heal physically as well as emotionally. But I needed teachers. I would have loved to have somebody to have taught me, but so many survivors and so many victims have zero money. And so, and of course, to pay for professional help or, for a life coach or for any services, you need money. So how are you supposed to get this help if you have zero money, right?
Mm.
And if you're hurting for finances. So I just started putting this program together that I know that what I needed, I knew that what my mother would have needed, what my children needed. And that's kind of how the idea of the programs and the shelters came about and the long term homes.
Yeah. So tell us more about what the programs are. What is the vision for helping?
I love this question. So the vision of the Lifehouse Project and within the program, so we'll leave the movement kind of behind, talk about just the services that we want to erect as many triage, I call them triage centers and not emergency shelters, because emergency shelters now have such a negative connotation to them that people are automatically shied away from them. And they're very restrictive in their resources that they have, and some of them are just not mandated very well. So, creating a triage center. So, this is the first step in taking the women and children in so we can evaluate what kind of treatments do they need before they can come into the long term homes and the long term programs, right? Because their fight and flight is on hyper alert.
Mm.
So we need to be able to get them where they know that they're safe and to calm down that nervous system. But, they may need some emergency medical attention, some emergency mental health attention. We don't know, but this is the time to evaluate and get that process going immediately.
Mm.
And that's, without going in detail, but that's what the triage centers are for. And we want to run them where they're staying in these triage centers for about 6 months, up to 6 months. It doesn't have to be 6 months, but they need to know that they don't have to find themselves a place immediately, because that just keeps people in a flight mode or a run mode, or, that fear mode, if you will, knowing like, okay, I have 60 days here. I only have 90 days here. Where am I going to go? Where am I going to go? I have no money. I got 3 children with me. Where am I going to go? And then within the triage center, especially the ones with children, we are going to have a domestic violence attorney unit, legal help
Mm.
to get us through the process. We're going to be working with the police officers and the law enforcement. So this way that we can be assured that through the legal system and through the law that our survivors or victims who are escaping are not further victimized. We need that complete support around them to help them through this such crucial time. And then we can transit them or transfer them into our long-term homes up to 1 to 3 years. It will depend upon the person and where they're at. And the programs within those homes are from a complete um, physical health, physical well being, which is helping them get medical care, nutrition, a nutritionist, and even a physical health coach to help with, strengthening their body through, it could be yoga, all the way to weightlifting, depending upon the person and their physical well being, all the way into their mental health well being with therapists, professional therapists who deal with survivors and victims that are escaping and their abuser, to life coaches to help implement all this, all the stuff that they're learning through these programs, including the reality shifts, all the way to the spiritual well-being, from pranic healing to I think it's called heart math program, to sound therapy, we do have a Maury, I think his last name is Zafarkach. I think I may have butchered his last name, but he's well known for his sound therapy, all the
Mhm.
way to the financial well-being, right, and the career well-being. So that means maybe education, furthering on their education, degrees, certificates, licensing, small business incubators, career mentoring in the communities, emotional intelligence education, because emotional intelligence doesn't come naturally, it is something that's learned. So
Mhm.
all of this is a holistic approach to a complete entire new life, so they're not living that story anymore. Not only
Yeah.
that, they won't be going back into a victim type of situation, but they're moving past the survivor story to I'm an empowered leading individual. I own my own life and I write my own story. And that's what we want every person coming out of our programs to know, to be, and to be living. That's success.
Yes, it's so beautiful. I would say that a lot of people would say, I need that, and they aren't necessarily survivors. It's such a beautiful way. But I think what's so important too that we remind people is that it is that time to create their own life. And not only is the Lifehouse Project creating the space for that, but all the tools because um, someone that has been in trauma for, a period of time, short or long, may not think that you didn't know that things were available to you, that they were even a possibility. So
Yeah,
you're
and
really
this,
creating what you could have used
yes.
during your time.
Right. And this is what's so important. There's a couple of really important elements that I don't want to skip over with the Lifehouse Project. But, you know, education, our community and our societies do need to be educated. The awareness is out there, but the education is not.
Mm.
Where's the call to action? For the people who have never been abused, to run into a victim or a survivor and you're listening to their story, what could you do? What could you give to them to change their life or to help them change their life, right? That's a really important missing element. So the Lifehouse Project is all about inventing all of these tools and resources for everybody in the community and everybody in every society to use, so we can take action and make that difference in everybody's lives as well as our own. So we can spread awareness and keep on spreading awareness, but people will turn away from helping if they don't know how to help.
Mm.
So I think that's really important. We need a Lifehouse Project is about how can you help? What are the steps? What are the tools? What are the resources? Let us help you get those. Can we give you those? And that's including with other nonprofits. We're not in competition. We are going to partner with every single other nonprofit that's out there that aligns with our mission and our purpose to strengthen them because we need them. We've
Mm.
got so many victims out there that are being human trafficked or in slavery, if you will, and also in child abuse and domestic violence, that we need every able body, every able agency, every able nonprofit to join forces with us. This is not about competition. This is about how can we strengthen your organization with our programs, or in any way possible. We want to work with other nonprofits to do this. Another one important, really important element here for survivors to know, we do need to hear your story. And having the best kept secrets gives the survivor a chance to tell their story for the world to hear. And when you're able to do that, you finally like, oh my God, my voice has finally been heard. then you can take that giant leap forward and leave it behind.
Mm,
We want to be heard. We want to be seen because we've been unseen for so long, swept under the rug and shushed up by society. And the best kept secrets is that platform for every survivor to come tell their story for the world. Your voice will be heard. And when that happens, a healing happens where you can leave that story behind and create yourself a new story.
yes, so true. And so we have this with the Lifehouse Project, this beautiful holistic approach to pulling people out of abuse and trafficking into creating their life. And it's such a beautiful transition of available tools and services. Then you have the best kept secrets, that is to create a platform for people to share their stories so that they can get them out and know that they're heard and that it matters, and then they can move forward in the way that they. You also have this section where, so this truly is just illustrating how much of a movement it is, where you are collaborating with other nonprofits to even raise our voice even louder and to create even more awareness, but even more support so that the people who want to help, and we know you want to help, so that you know how you can, and that is to support organizations like this.
Yeah,
What
and
else?
by supporting them through not just donations, but using the tools and the resources and speaking up when you see abuse. We need you to speak up and move past that fear. And it takes courage. But if we can help you, right? If we can help and be that support for others to feel empowered, to speak up and stop the abuse, then just how much better will our world be, our society and community, in making that difference. So there's so many different ways for people to help where they're at, where it fits in with their life and their lifestyle. And it's just meeting people where they're at.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's, I am sure, so much more coming from the Lifehouse Project. So I hope that people will stay tuned to be a part of it, not only to watch, but to be a part. And we invite them into this journey as well. What else would you like to share about Lifehouse Project?
Well, the Lifehouse Project has so many different things kind of going on. Don, one of the things that I do want to say is that we are starting our summits, and these are 4 summits, and they're going to be every single year. We are starting a national day, and it's called, or a national month, excuse me. We're starting a national month called Adopt a Nonprofit. And that's going to be our first summit that we're going to be putting together at the end of July. And we will hold the summit at the end of July every single year, along with 3 other summits. So just get prepared for some tools, resources, education, and a call to action from the Lifehouse Project. We are about action and doing more than just awareness.
Yes. Yeah, that is so powerful. And how can people keep in touch with what's going on and what's new with the Lifehouse Project?
The best way is definitely visiting our website, lifehouseproject.org. And survivors, of course, please share your story with the best kept secrets at survivors at lifehouseproject.org. You can email us at info@lifehouseproject.org. But as we're growing in our resources and growing in our in our infrastructure, our website will continue to improve, and we'll have more on our website for people to be really up to date on what's happening every single day, every single week. So, but yes, come by and visit our website and email us. And yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Samantha, for your time, and just for all of this incredible value that you're putting out into the world, and the collaboration and the unification of so many people that want to help, and organizations. And it's just truly inspiring. I hope that you will consider adding, um, be an example of what is possible to one of your monikers for sure, outside of leader. Uh, I will be sure also to keep you guys up to date. If you keep tuning in to Best Kept Secrets, we will let you know what else is new going on in Lifehouse Project as well. But do visit us at lifehouseproject.org. And also, again, just to reiterate what Samantha said, please, if you have a story to share, I really urge you to reach out to us, and we can talk about getting you on Best Kept Secrets so that you can start creating your new story. Um, and we look forward to seeing you next time for the next episode of Best Kept Secrets.